Resume recording. We will add this to our YouTube channel as well as the Certified Lights website. If you go to the partnership program, scroll to the bottom, we'll have this here for you. So if you want to go back and rewatch it, maybe watch a couple areas, take notes, all that fun stuff, you're more than welcome to. So first things first, create your schedule. So work on it now. There's no reason to wait until the very last day of December. I know a lot of you guys are probably tired. Last thing you want to really think about is more Christmas light stuff. The season probably beat you up. That's usually how it goes. We understand. But it's one of those things, the sooner you get that out of the way, the better it's going to be for you, the better it's going to be for your customers, right? Efficiency is key. I know this probably sounds simple, but route your customers in the same area together. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that, even before I came on. An efficient route is really going to streamline your takedown process, and it is going to maximize your efficiency. It's going to maximize your pay. Your revenue at the end of the day. The longer it takes, time is money, right? You don't want that going out the door because you didn't, plan your routes accordingly. If you guys do have any questions, please drop them in the chat. I got a couple people here. Scott, owner of the company, is here, as well as Mateo. You see Scott's camera, he's over there waving at you. Mateo's here. He can also help answer questions or tee them up. We'll have a Q&A section at the end of the webinar. Okay, so schedule your routes with accurate takedown times. A lot of, if this is your first season, you may not realize just how quickly your takedowns can go. A regular residential home can be done anywhere from, depending on what you got going on there, 10 to 30 minutes. Now, if you've got large trees or, really large estates, multi-entrance HOAs, obviously that's going to take a little bit longer. And when you start your season again next year, you'll be thinking about this, right? There's like this ever evolving circle when it comes to Christmas lights, right? So you've got install, and we tell everybody what? Think about takedowns, right? When you're installing, don't make it so complicated that it becomes a pain to take it down. And then when we're talking about takedowns, we say what? Think about your installs, right? Don't overcomplicate it, but don't, not include information that you're going to need for next season. All right. So that's part of it is, don't spend, we say pro temp, right? Professional, but temporary, keep that in mind whenever you're scheduling for your takedowns. Start early if you can. Again, like I mentioned a minute ago, we start on January 2nd. But I understand, if you're in maybe the Seattle area, you may not be able to, right? You may have to start late February, March. If you have customers that want to keep them up a little bit later, that's okay as well. Scott makes a good point there in the chat. Over 400 accounts, and we're usually wrapped up by the 15th. We were wrapped up by the 15th last year. So no need to drag it on. Many customers are usually pretty anxious to get their lighting down, especially if they're in more affluent neighborhoods. So you can help that by communicating, right? You don't have to say, hey, Mrs. Jones, I'm going to be there on, the 5th of January, but you can give them a week, right? Hey, I'm going to be there the week of this. If you got really tight routes, that gives you a little bit more flexibility, and customers are generally accepting of that. But if you don't tell them anything, they may be thinking, okay, when am I, when are my lights coming down, and are my lights coming down? If you've been in this industry, anything longer than a year, there's a ton of other guys out there that put lights up and then they never show up to take them down, right? So you don't want to be that person. You don't want to be that company. So communicate with your customers. It really is that simple. So create your map and label, but don't overcomplicate it, right? And then I say that, but then I've got this picture over here on the left side that's like the most complicated thing ever, right? But it doesn't have to be like that for Christmas lights. It just really needs to be, it just needs to make sense to you, and it needs to make sense to your customers, right? We do recommend labeling each of your lines with easy to read labels. We use cable labels that are purchased on Amazon. In fact, I just bought a whole bunch of them this morning. They're resistant to color fading, tear resistant, and they work well in a variety of climates. So I'm gonna see if this is actually gonna pull up and work for me here. That way you guys can see that. You may not be able to. What I will do is I will drop that link in the chat for you. So the ones that I purchased, it's $5.99, for a pack of, what is that, 270. That's a lot. I mean, I tested these in, we're in Dallas, so I put them out for about a year to see, what kind of damage the Texas sun did to them, and they really held up well. So I would definitely recommend using those if you're going to use anything to label your lines. Use abbreviations, something easy to read, but again, don't overcomplicate it, right? So if you've got stake lights installed at a house, you could put SL, and that means stake lights left side, right? If it's an HOA, 2MM is generally what we would do, and it would say second entrance, the monument, in the median. It's super, super simple. If you're going with the colored labels, use green, right? If you're doing stake lights, don't use the brightest yellow that they have because it's going to stand out, right? Sorry, there we go. Whatever you do, create a list and just stick to it. And then you're going to take that list and you're going to create a cheat sheet. Post it in your trucks, your trailers, give it to your teams next season. If it's just you, that's absolutely fine as well. That way you'll remember it when you go out to reinstall those lights next season. So if you're looking at it says SR, okay, this is the right side of the stake lights. And you can draw a map of the house. I know this is super common. A lot of people tend to do that. When you get a little bit larger, it can be a little bit more difficult to do that and keep up with them, especially if there's multiple changes. So you just have to be able to really commit to that. If you do, always notate power locations in your electrical flow. That way you install it the same way that you had it up last year or this year if you're planning for next year. Okay. And if you are peaking or if you're bulbing your peaks, which we always recommend, right? Use a Sharpie. That way okay, this one right here that's got, this Sharpie written on the socket, it's going to line up really easily for you next year. If it doesn't, maybe it's backwards or you've, used the wrong line somewhere and you didn't label correctly. So that's just an extra way of making sure it's where it needs to go. Test your lights, right? So before you take anything down, turn the lights on and test them. Make sure they've worked. If you haven't done QA in a couple days, if there's a squirrel issue on them, you obviously want to make sure you fix that. Take a photo of everything working. You can use this next year as your reference for installation for you or your team. Any non-working lights, wrap them with red tape, and then you need to make a note that, okay, I need to replace this for next year. Before you do that, make sure to check the fuses. You might be able to just replace the fuses and it may work just fine. But if not, you'll definitely want to scrap those. Check your mini lights and your extension cords for phrase or chew marks. Very common, especially on extension cords. Make sure all your C9s, your C7s, if that's what you're using, make sure those are working. Check the quality of your bows and your greenery prior to storage. If anything's faded, especially here in Texas, things tend to fade really, really quickly, no matter what we put on them, because the sun's so harsh. Make sure you're not, putting up really faded products. Tracking non-working lights will help you build replacement costs in your P&L. I don't think a lot of people think about that, but what year are those products going out? If it's year 2, year 3, you may need to look at maybe another supplier, maybe look at certified lights, right? Or look at any consistent patterns you can see with that as well. So go ahead and start your takedown, right? Count your items as you take them down. This is especially true for mini lights used on trees, bushes, columns. And you can use this information to compare against the agreement and hone in on your sales skills, right? So when I took over sales a couple of years ago, For some reason, I was always missing the mark on my stake lights. I have no idea why. I was measuring from Google. It shouldn't have been that big of an issue. My trees were okay, but it was just the stake lights. So my field manager came to me and said, Ashley, I don't know what the heck you're doing, but something's wrong. You got to figure it out. And that's because they were counting it, right? So they're counting it on installs, they're counting it on takedowns, and then they can come to me and say, you are not doing this correctly, right? You need to work on the sales process. You need to work on your measurements. You know, maybe I think the issue ended up being I was measuring on the inside of the flower bed when we usually install on the outside of the flower bed, and it was a little bit longer. So, you know, without counting those, I would never know, right? Now, if you are a solo installer, it might be a little bit easier, but as you grow and you have teams, you know, those skills you're going to always have to work on. Okay. Use an extendable pole with a hook attachment to remove lights to limit your ladder use. This is why things go so quickly. Scott said it takes, you know, 2.5 months to put everything up, but then it takes all about 2 weeks to get everything down. Well, that's because you're not having to get on the ladder, you're not having to get on the roof for the most part. Now, if you're doing a lot of ridges, yeah, you'll probably have to do that, right? But you get an extendable pole, put a hook on there, and you just rip them down. Obviously, be super mindful, don't damage anything, right? Always reball your mini lights, starting with the female on the inside. Leave the male on the outside of the ball, make it much, much easier. And only ball one strand at a time. Don't ball multiples together. It seems like common sense. But unfortunately, it's not so common, right? So what you don't want to have is a ball of 200 lights and it's this big. And then when you go to count everything, your counts are off. Use the over-under method when coiling your extension cords. This will help reduce knots and kinks for next season. If you are used to doing this, I promise you, if you try and throw that out, it is going to tangle. My guys tried to argue, it just does not work that way. The over-under is a little bit tricky if you're not used to doing it. If you've done it, you know, with your arm over the last few years, that extension cord has a memory, right? And it's going to tell you, this is the way I go, right? So when you go to throw it out, it's going to tangle. What I would recommend is lay all your extension cords out during the summertime, let the sun kind of bake it, you know, bake it a little bit. It's going to be a little bit more pliable, and then you can go with the over under method. My recommendation, go to YouTube, find a YouTube video that there's a lot of them that do a really good job explaining it. But it is a little bit tricky the first time you do it. Leave your lamp cord or SPT1 wire in the customer bin, please. Please make sure you do that, right? That is gold. And if you are just throwing it into a general storage bin, you're just gonna have to buy more of that next year, which you don't want to do, right? If you're putting hooks up for greenery, so your garland, your wreaths, leave those up. You know, a lot of people think that the customers are really paying attention to that kind of stuff, but they're really not. Most of the homes that we do are multi-million-dollar homes, and we've have number 8 hooks around the doorway, and they never say anything. Now I have a couple each year that come back and it's like, oh hey, they forgot to take these out. So we go and we take those out, put the mortar in, and we're on to the next. But when you've got only a few of them that are having you go back out and do that, it makes next year so much easier, right? You don't have to reinstall those hooks. Look around for trash. Again, common sense, right? But I once found a 40-foot ladder at a customer's house that a team forgot. Okay. So it sounds a little bit crazy, but make sure you're looking for, lights, clips. If you're using those old school all-in-one clips and not an enclosed clip, those are definitely going to come off. They're definitely going to fly in the bushes. Same thing with the shingle tabs. You can save a lot of time by switching to an all-enclosed clip. When uninstalling, always think of reinstalling for next year. All right, so let's talk about storage. This is probably one of the biggest things that I tend to see in the Facebook groups during this time of the year, and everyone's like, "Hey, Home Depot has the big black bins on sale, right? Go get you some. Lowe's got them on sale." I'm a big believer in using the right storage bin for the right decor, right? Again, the most popular option that I've seen are the large black bins with the yellow lids. They are super durable, right? And they're perfect when it comes to mini lights, because mini lights are heavy, right? We use 100 count lights here. I can store 50 of them, makes it super easy for inventory. But they're large, right? And if I have a customer that only has 100 lights, that's a lot of real estate in our warehouse that customer could be taking up with the large black bins. So when we do inventory, we do color code our bins with spray paint, right? So if you've got red, guess what color I'm spray painting on the outside of that black bin? Red, right? So if you've got 2 bins that have red on them, and I know I put 50 in there, well, I can easily count, okay, I've got 100 balls of minis in these 2 bins. Makes it really easy when it's going out to the teams next season. Now, when it comes to the smaller jobs, like I mentioned, the 100 count lights or 100 count C9s, we use clear totes. We have 3 different sizes for, different size estates. But this does reduce our storage area. So, even though, we've got that many customers, for all the lighting, it's only taken up maybe 1,000 square feet in our warehouse, maybe, but they're not nearly as durable, and I recognize that. So, you can't throw them like you're going to throw the black ones, where you shouldn't throw those either, but you can't be nearly as harsh on them. Make sure you label the bins with the customer account name, or the customer account name and number, first name, last name, or the property name if it's a commercial job. I do recommend keeping all large items together for VIPs. And then they should probably be stored a little bit away from the rest of them. Put them on the top shelf, put them on the bottom shelf by themselves. Just try and keep them away. Mini lights generally tend to go into Gen Pop, right? So general storage. Same thing with our greenery. Makes it a little bit easier, but if you are using custom garland, custom cut garland, custom wreaths, you can assign those to a specific customer. But if you're not, no need to assign that. If this customer or this customer's wreath looks exactly like this customer's wreath, what's the point of labeling those if they're the exact same? Store lighting in a dry, cool place. If you're unable to do this, throw some of those silica gel packs, and you can order those right off of Amazon. You can get 100 of them for super, super cheap. All right, so I'm gonna show you a couple bin examples. So we have red lid bins, there we go, that can fit small size HOAs or even small residential properties. You can see those on, Home Depot, Lowe's. And that's one of my actual bins right there, right? So you see I've got the account number and I've got the property name. The clear lid bins are about medium size, and they can fit about medium size HOAs or your average residential property. Like this one, for example, right? The blue lid bins are much larger. So think multi-entrance HOAs, large commercial properties, large residential estates, right? So much, much larger. And some of those may even require a couple of them, right? If they're large enough. The yellow bins, again, are great for mini lights or custom cut garland. And so here's one of our examples right there. So you can probably imagine what color mini lights are in that bin, right? Example below, it stores red mini lights. Super simple, right? Thank your customers. It actually goes quite a long way, and I don't think enough people actually do that. So I actually just sent out a bunch of Christmas cards to our customers, saying the same thing. Hey, thank you for choosing us, right? We know that in our market, as well as other markets across the United States, there's a ton of competitors out there, and there's probably people that are willing to do it much cheaper than what you're charging, right? But they still chose you, right? So we have to notice just how important that is. It's a great time to send surveys, right? Ask them, hey, can you please leave me a Google review, a Facebook review, any Yelp, whatever else you use, ask for it. They're not going to generally do it unless you ask, okay? And explain why that's so important. If it's just you and your brother or you and your buddy that are running this business, explain that you're a small family-owned business and that these reviews really help, right? They're going to help push you to the next level. It's going to help you get more customers. Um, you know, customers want to see you grow. They want to assist in your growth. But they may not always know how to do that. That's one way that they can definitely help. Okay. This is a great time to get them locked in for next season, right? Hey, let's go ahead and start talking about, September, October, November right now. Let's get you locked in. Great time to upsell. Hey, Mr. Jones, you did this. I think if we add the tree next year, I think you're really going to love that, right? So you should have some fresh pictures, show them what that looks like, and try and sell them some extra stuff, especially if they're happy with you right then, right? Okay. And then now it's time to plan for the next season. This business does not end in January, February, March. Okay. I think a lot of people think that this is a full-time business that you should be working on. Even in June, July, August, all those months, you should be focused on this business, because if you're not, you're going to be behind when September rolls around. Okay. Join the Certified Lights Partnership for a one-on-one mentorship. We've got a lot of partners in here. Excited to see those guys in here. We do help out our partners quite a bit. They get a lot of information. It's free to join. You could go on the website, certifiedlights.com. We'll have Mateo or Scott drop a link in there, and you can see all the benefits of what the Certified Lights Partnership has for you. And whether you're 1 year or 20 years in, come join us in February for training, right? February 22nd, 23rd. Super excited to have another annual training event going on, 2-day training, classroom and hands-on field training, right? We're not going to just teach you from the classroom, okay? So with that being said, what kind of questions do you have? I know I saw some drop in. Mateo, do you want to jump in and give me some questions?
Sure. So I have a couple written down, starting from the top. What is the best way to get HOAs, and how and when to contact them for bids?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. So about half of our business is commercial, and a big chunk of that commercial business are actually HOAs. We've been doing HOAs essentially since we begun, since we started the business, because we were heavily involved in it in our pest control business. So there is a what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a community, right? Which is CAI, Community Associations Institute. You can join that. They've got chapters all across the United States. And then there's like a small annual fee, I think, that you have to pay for that. And what that does is you will be listed under that service. So whether you do lawn care, whether you do Christmas lights, whether you do pest control, whatever it is, you can add those services onto that list, and then they can reach out to you through that way. As much as I would love to say, hey, HOAs really get started super early on, right? That's usually not the case, right? It's still ran by the board. The board may not be thinking about all, their Christmas lights. So it's really just kind of training the HOAs in your area that, hey, by the time November comes around, it's usually too late, right? At least in our case. So CAI, I think the website's, let me see. I think it's like cai.org. Hold on, don't quote me on that. Don't put that in yet. I'll confirm that, and I'll drop that in the chat for you guys.
All right. The next question is,
Mateo, if you don't mind, I'll just jump in and add that that those associations, whether it's for homeowners associations or office buildings, which is BOMA, BOMA, apartments. Some areas have a lot of apartments that decorate for the season. So the apartment association, you really need to have time committed to those. Just getting your name listed is not going to get you very far. You've got to get active. You've got to be in committees. It's relationship building with those associations and building relationships with the management companies and the managers of those management companies. And then Like any good business, once you start making relationships and bidding and getting some work, when you do quality work, you'll just grow from there. So just another 2 cents.
That's very true. I forgot to add in all the hours and time spent by Scott from trade shows and schmoozing and all that other stuff, years put in. So it's not just a one and done. So that's definitely a good point. All right, Mateo, what else you got for me?
All right, another question. Can you provide an example of a cheat sheet?
Yeah, so partners do have access to that. It is in the Google Drive. If you are not a partner and you would like that information, check out that link that Mateo dropped where you can go and apply for the partnership.
All right, next one is what hook attachment do you recommend?
Excuse me. I can check to see if we can have if there's one that I can easily find, but I think someone said that it's like a painter's. I've seen the painter's pole one before, but I'm not sure if that's the same hook. To be honest with you, like it can be very customizable. I've seen my teams. Obviously, we prefer the hook. I've seen the painter's pole. I've seen them use two stakes on each side because sometimes they need something a little bit different than a hook. So let me see what I can find on that. If I can find the exact one that we've used, and then I'll drop that in the chat.
Cool. The next one, I'm going to read the entire message. It seems that the fewer sizes of storage boxes that you use, the easier it is to store and load on the trucks. Could you comment on how you agree or disagree with this?
Okay, so let me just repeat that back to you. I don't have I guess my sound isn't turned up that high. So it's easier to store the
So
all the boxes when they're the same, the bins when they're all the same size, right? Do I agree or disagree?
Yeah, right.
Both, right? Okay, not to be difficult by any means, but definitely both, right? So when it comes to the large black bins, yeah, super easy to store. They tend to stack really well. They can start bending a little over time, especially if you only have mini lights in there and they're pretty heavy. Now with our system with the smaller bins, technically, yes, it is easier to store all of them together. We do have assigned locations in our warehouse specifically for each customer. That way I can easily go and find that customer's bin, that customer's product, and I can give that to our warehouse team. But I know not everybody's set up that way or, set up for that size. But I would say that the space saved is worth it, right? Because majority of the bins that we use are the smaller ones, right? Smaller HOAs. A regular size residential will fit in there just fine. So if majority of them are already that way, it's not really that much of a difference when it comes to storage.
I would just add in, I think Ashley's points depends is huge because if you're a smaller company, you may just put all your customer stuff together. But again, for certified, we only store customers' custom fit items. So in general, that is roof line and stake lights. And that can fit into a pretty small container in general, depending on how much obvious stake lights and roof lights they have. If it's mini lights, if it's Reese, if it's Garland, that all goes to general storage. And so we just go pull if they need 21 feet of Garland and 260-inch Reese, it's on their agreement. The warehouse is pulling, they go to general storage and pull that. And then they'll be working with Mrs. Smith and they'll go find her customer number, pull that bin that's specific to her. So it saves us a ton of space. We can really put a lot of product in a small area. Because if you think about trying to put Reese or Garland or even mini lights, you're never going to fill up the containers. You're going to have a lot of half full containers. So with our general storage, with our specific storage by customer, to Ashley's point, we usually use smaller containers because we're only putting those custom fit items in there. So if you're putting everything together, you may need to have bigger containers. But to the question, I would say, even if you have some blank space, the way I read the question is, do you want to custom fit everything to different sizes of containers and have a ton of different size containers? I would say no for us. Now everyone can do it their own way, but then you got just a hodgepodge of containers. Medium, I think we have the large black ones, like Ashley said, with the yellow lids. Those are our main biggest ones for mini lights. And then we have two different sizes for the custom fit. And Ashley can correct me if I'm wrong on the shelf. So we don't have a variety of sizes. We try to keep the sizes limited to a couple of sizes, 3 overall with our mini lights. So again, that's a preference, but I do believe whoever's comment that was that less is more sometimes. Picking a couple sizes that works for you and sticking with those and working off of that.
Cool. Next question. What are your experiences with permanently installed holiday lighting on commercial sites?
I love it. I know there's a lot of people out there that say, oh, well, if you sell them permanent lighting, you've lost your customer. And I could not disagree with that anymore, to be honest with you. We do install permanent lighting. I personally view it as a really large market for commercial, maybe not so much residential, but I could be easily disproven on that because I know there's a ton of people out there that install permanent lighting for residential. In our market specifically, it's very old school, very classic, old money, warm white, runs everything, right? So in that market specifically, it's a little bit harder to sell residential. Now for commercial, generally speaking, if a customer has budgeted for, let's say, $3,500 for their Christmas lights each year, and you sell them permanent lighting, yes, that cost is going to be higher. Yes, it's a one-time install, but you have to remember that there's maintenance fees around that, changing colors, repairs, reoccurring maintenance, that you can charge for that, right? But the other thing is that's just the roof line. You can still do stake lights, you can do trees, you can do greenery, right? Those things are not permanent. And when a customer's become accustomed to spending $3,500 every single year, there's still a good chance that they're probably going to pay that, even with the permanent lighting. So it may not be that same year, it may be year 2. But again, they're still going to want those extra things that make it look a little bit more festive. So when you think about those, I would personally break those out into 2 different categories. You're not losing your Christmas light customer because you sold them permanent lighting. You've sold them permanent lighting, and now you get to continue that customer with more decor, usually with the same budget. That's just my opinion on it.
The next question is, any thoughts on drilling holes on the sides of the storage bins for ventilation?
I mean, you definitely could. We don't do it. My only concern is if you did that, would be the structural integrity of it. I wouldn't recommend doing it on like those clear totes if you're going to do that, because again, they are a little bit more fragile. I haven't done it. We throw a couple of those gel packs in. We're usually pretty good. If we absolutely need to, I mean, we're in Texas, it gets pretty warm here. We're not in a climate controlled storage. And that's never been an issue. Joel, I see your question. We don't ever have an issue with that. Most product doesn't really require that, but if you are in a more, humid area, more wet climate, then it's probably not a bad idea. Just be mindful, I guess, where you're drilling.
Cool. Next one is, do you guys label the peaks or starting points on strands? Do you tape the connecting ends so that the strand doesn't come apart?
No, we don't generally tape them together. We do label the peaks and we do label each of the lines. So if it's the roof line, we'll have a specific color for that. And then if it's, if you've got lamp cord running up the side of the house to give power, then we would probably leave that with the roof line and start there. But that would probably be a different color as well. So generally we do yellow for our power, because it kind of makes sense, right? So that way my team doesn't necessarily need to know what's on that label. They can look at it and say, okay, this is the power just based on the color of it. And that's where that cheat sheet comes in pretty handy.
Cool. And this is a good one. Do you knock before starting to take down?
No, no, we get in, take the lights out, and we get out of there pretty quickly. Now, if we've got stuff in the backyard, yes, absolutely. But realistically, I mean, we're working what, 8 to 6. Most customers aren't generally home during that time. If we have let them know, hey, we're going to be out there this week, they're already kind of expecting us anyways. And today's age, everyone's got cameras just about. So if they get any kind of motion, they're going to see, okay, it's the Christmas light company. They're taking the lights down. So generally, no, we don't knock. And that even goes for installs.
I would add just if you don't have uniforms, we wear vests, red vests
Mm.
with it's very obvious who we are. So our customers have become accustomed to that, but make sure you're uniform. So if they do see you, that to Ashley's point, they'll know who you are and what you're doing.
The next one is an install question. Are we accepting those or
Yeah, we'll
unlimited?
accept anything. Hit me.
All right. So this one is one of the issues we ran into was having the metal discs adhere for the whole season, especially on aluminum trim. What is a method you have found for getting them to stick better?
So usually there's two things that would cause the disc not to stick, okay? The first one is I guess three. I'll say three, okay? The first one is you use too little glue, right? Second one is you use too much glue, right? Or the third one is while you were installing it, you let the lights hang off of it, okay? So generally speaking, there is the right amount of glue that should be used on those. I think the size that we usually recommend is like maybe like a pea size. I don't like peas, so I don't know which size they are, but I think they're about that size, right? So using that, you can always use a little bit more, but if you use too much, it'll have some issues. But the biggest thing is, holding it and sticking it there for, 5 to 10 seconds to give it to allow it enough time to make sure it adheres to those. Okay. Now, if you're in colder climates, it might be a little bit harder, especially if you're going onto aluminum. So you may need to hold it there a little bit longer. And the other thing is, if you've got your bulb and you're holding it there and the rest of the bulbs are just hanging down there, you have to keep in mind that even if you're holding it there, there is still pressure and there's still weight from the rest of that line that's hanging. That's really being put on that one, right? So my recommendation is hold those up, put them on your shoulder, put them up, right? Put them on your shoulder, whatever you need to do to just keep that a little bit more elevated. So it's not so much pressure, so much weight being put on that disc.
All right, the next one is what type of bins do you use to store linkables? If no bins, how do you store the linkables?
Linkables, that's the word they use, linkables. Is that
Yeah,
the HBL light links? Is that what we're talking about?
so
Because
that's
if
One
that's the
of
all,
those
it was
question,
from
brands,
we
Xavier.
don't install those.
but they do have plastic bins like you would store most stuff that are, I think they go under your bed for certain stuff that are kind of long. Those are, I think, come in 4-foot sections, if I remember. We used them way back when, but they look great. I don't want to say anything negative because there are people out there that use them and it works really well for them. In our market, we tried it, just didn't work well. But there's some plastic, large, deeper that you can stack those up in. Was what I think we did back in the day, 10 years ago or something.
Cool. Do you have any issues with non-climate controlled storage?
Nope. Joel was here last Sunday and got to take a peek at all of our bins. No issues there.
All right.
Mateo, sorry to interrupt, but I would like, you skipped over, it's not a question, but uh, I always enjoy the feedback we get from our partners, especially when it's positive. We'll take the negative too and improve on it. But someone posted the partnership is incredible. This is my first year and could not have done it without them. Pricing is spot on. I checked all the pricing and quality products, and then we got a couple of dittos and for sure's from some other partners that are on here. So our goal is really, it's a little side note for those who don't know about our partnership. Our goal is almost like a franchise or is to provide all the learnings we've gotten over 17 years to help folks run up the learning curve faster and without the issues that you have to usually face that we've gone through, and we can save you the time from going through those frustrations. And has actually started this whole webinar. Everything we do is not a franchise system, so you don't pay anything and you don't have to do it our way. We just explain what's made us very successful over 17 years, and you can take the best of it or what works for you and implement in your business. And then our goal is to continue to grow this out, where we even have we're going to create a VIP partner segment where we can do a lot of in-season help on bids, help people get into the commercial side of things. We did Love Field last year. We just added DFW Airport in Dallas this year. We do a lot of large commercial jobs. And so that's kind of our program, is to help everything from very detailed processes and how to be organized and improve your bottom line, to how do you think long-term and grow the business through our partnership. So we're going to keep growing that out. This is only our third year. We feel like we've added a lot to really improve, but we're really looking forward to the next 3 to 5 years where we just even make it more fruitful and information and positive for companies to grow with us and us to grow with them.
Yeah, that's really great. All right, so the next one was, how do you incentivize your residential customers to renew in January for 2024?
I mean, generally speaking, if you've done a great job and your customers are happy, you don't really need to provide any incentives, right? They're happy, they love the lights, you took care of them, you responded to them quickly, you got them down in a timely manner. Generally, that's enough. They know they're going to want Christmas lights next year, and you've already proven to them that you can do it, right? The trust is there. That's the hardest part with your customers, is just building that trust from the get-go, because there are so many other companies out there. Now, if you aren't providing discounts, you can always do that. But again, I would start there first. Generally speaking, Christmas lights has anywhere between a 80 to 85% renewal rate, as long as you're taking care of your customers.
All right, where do you get your vests? What vest are you using?
There's a lady that I talked to that she gets them from somewhere. I can give you her contact info. Super nice lady. They are a little bit on the pricier side, simply because we do have them branded with our logo. And we choose the red ones. If you choose a different color, they're a little bit cheaper. But let me find her contact info and I will drop it in here for you guys.
All right, let me know when you're ready for the next one.
I'm ready for the next one.
Okay, where is the best place to learn how to do permanent lighting? Also, if you install permanent lighting and or wedding lighting, do you do it year round?
Okay. Wedding lighting and permanent lighting are generally two very, very different things. Okay. Different systems, different marketing, different everything. We do not do the training, at least not yet, for permanent lighting. Our preferred system is the Inception system. If you would like a contact for that, I can put that in the chat for you guys. It is through Reinders. That's who does the training for us and for our partners. So yeah, we do both of those year round, wedding lighting as well. To me, they're very different markets, right? You can't go into wedding or events thinking that you're going to get the Christmas light money, right? Permanent lights is very different as well. So I would highly suggest, finding some training for each one of those, because there are companies out there that do wedding light training. Jeff Larkham with Larkham Lighting does a really great job. We learned with him. So I would just make sure you go into those separately. Okay.
All right, and there was a follow-up to that question. Are you doing anything for income other during the off season or are you just working to grow a big Christmas light install business? Like, are you just focusing on that, or are you trying to find other ways?
So I like to think that we have already grown a big Christmas light business. So we're pretty good there. I'm sure Scott would love to see more. Sometimes I would like to see more, and then sometimes I'm like, you know what, I think we're good right here. Personally, I really love our certified lights partners. I love the certified lights business and the industry. I really enjoy helping new companies start their business and sharing my knowledge. So we do focus a lot on growing certified lights. Certified Lighting Pros, which is our installation business, does have separate services. We do wedding lighting and events, much smaller scale. We started that, I think, maybe like a year and a half ago. Permanent lighting, we've done some pretty large permanent lighting jobs. Thanks to pretty much Google SEO, right? We do landscape lighting as well. We started that in March of 2020, either the best or the worst time to start a business. It's a little bit, that one's a little bit difficult, at least in my market, simply because a lot of the new builds are being built with landscape lighting, but there's definitely a market there for it. But they're just a much smaller scale compared to the landscape or the Christmas light business.
Cool. Next one is how can you teach us how to price the takedown services?
Pricing takedown services or just pricing the service in general?
Well, it's price install / storage services.
I would be honored to teach you how to price those services in February when you come to our training on the 22nd, 23rd. That would be my suggestion. There's a lot of ways of doing it. But it's that with the install, it's that with learning how to run a business and not just work on the business. That would be my suggestion, because I feel like you'll have a better value by doing it that way.
Cool. Doug Steele said, I'm trying to find the cheat sheet in this shared folder with no luck. Can you tell me where it is?
I will take a look at it, Doug, and then I will send that over to you and all the other partners that are here. But it should be in there somewhere under the takedown area, but I haven't gotten into it lately, so I'll double check.
The next
That's
one
one of
is
the
not
things. Sorry, I was just gonna say that's one of the things we're gonna work on in this off season, as well as continue to organize the material in the Google Drive, so it's really easy to find. This year, Ashley did some videos we're gonna do more of, where if you have questions on something, we can literally send you a link to a video that walks you right through how to do it. And if there's additional questions, then we can jump in, because we have the distribution and training side of our business division, and then we have our installation, and both are growing. So as you know, during the busy part of the installation season, it gets pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good opportunity to introduce myself briefly. I will be taking over all of the marketing material. So a lot of the videos, a lot of the marketing material, or almost pretty much all the marketing material you see on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, anywhere that's created by me. And you're going to be seeing a lot of new changes coming to those accounts, and the way you access your partner materials is also going to be it's going to be worked on a lot. So you'll have much better access, much easier access, and it'll be much more organized. So be on the lookout for those changes here in the next few months, but that should start to look a lot better. So nice to meet everyone. The next one is not a question, but a statement. Ashley and Mateo are the best. They were there when I needed them. Also, all the materials provided were incredibly helpful. David's very excited for the growth next year. His goal is 20 custom jobs. All right. Will there be any commercial account training?
So how to acquire those contracts and things like that. Yeah, we'll have that in the training as well.
Yeah, that'll all be covered in February. Will the PAP be active? So this is kind of more general question now, but will the PAP be active for next year? And if so, how early will you start sending out product next year?
So the PAP will be available for next year. So if you guys are not familiar with PAP is, that is an exclusive benefit for our partners. It's called a product advancement program where we will advance you product and you make weekly payments on it. That way you don't have to, buy a whole bunch up front because we understand not everybody can do that, but it's also very important that you have that product in your warehouse for whenever you need, whenever you have those jobs sold. It will be coming out. In fact, we'll probably have that out, I would like to say, within the next few months. That was a new add-on for this season. It's going to look a little bit different for this next season. So we're excited to get that information out to everybody. But Scott's already placed orders to our manufacturer for products next year. So with that being said, I mean, we're hoping to have product in, August or earlier.
Yeah, I'll just expand on that a little bit. I don't really know how many folks on here are actual partners right now, but the PAP program, as Ashley said, the product advancement program, is an opportunity to get your product at the beginning of the season, late September, early October, at no cost. And then we allow you to use and install it as you sell, and we won't start charging. And again, this is what we did this year. Is our very first year. We kind of came up with it late, trying to think through how can we even be a better partner with our partners. And it was really successful. We've gotten tons of positive feedback from it, which I knew we would, because I tell everybody, if I was just starting out, someone would offer this to me, I would be like jumping up and down. I mean, it's free product and it's all about cash flow. But I remember those days when I didn't have money to get the advanced product, and the cash flow was an issue. So we start the weekly payments in November 1st. So as you sell, you should be starting to sell in October, and you should be asking for something down. We do 50%. You start getting cash in before you even install. And now you don't have to go spend that cash on product because you've got the product in the warehouse advanced from us, and you can spend more money on advertising and grow faster as you get into November. So what that does is then you start making weekly payments. You're still not paying it all back the 1st of November. So it really does is help your cash through the whole season. And we're going to be a little more restrictive about who we do it with, but we still leave it fairly wide open. And it was fairly successful for us. There's a lot of hiccups with any kind of new program, but it's a great way even if you're established in 2 or 3 years into it, but in a growth mode, where cash is king and you're trying to manage it and reinvest it to continue to grow. It's an amazing program for everyone. So we'll be rolling that out through our partnership again. As Ashley said, we already have a meeting tomorrow, Ashley, Mateo, and I, on 2024 planning, starting to prioritize our issues for 2024, and we'll continue to do that through the spring, to really get the ball rolling on things and improvements. And that'll be one of the things that we're really focused on. And then we'll put out some webinars for, start marketing to our partners, saying, hey, if you're interested in the advanced product program, let's get on a webinar, let's get feedback. We'll introduce the changes we're going to have. And so you'll be able to get involved in that. And we'll ask for more financial information this year, more growth goals, so that we know what to go order from our factories in China. In fact, Ashley, Mateo, and I have a trip in March to China to go speak to them about some of the things we need to improve. Every year, we're constantly trying to improve. Last year, we did a lot with our garland, adding more lights to it, adding more tips to it. We came up with a new magnet clip. If you haven't seen that, it's amazing. Way better than the white magnet clips that are out there. We're always improving things for our installation business, which again passes on to all of our partners and customers, even some of our wholesale customers and our partners. So that just FYI, I want to expand a little more on that program because it was such a success, and we're really looking forward to next year. But we will be putting out information to all of our partners about when we'll talk more about that and start getting more discussion around your goals and what you think you'll order, so we can better plan what we need to order as a kind of a team.
Great. And just a couple more questions. If you don't mind sharing, what did you guys do for Christmas light revenue in 2023?
Scott, you're good with me sharing that information?
I don't think he heard you.
Scott?
I was on mute, and I put myself back on mute. Yeah, I already put it out there, 1.5, and that's not the exact, but you can expand on it.
Oh, okay. Well, I was actually going to update it when I ran the report. This is for the year, which is about 1.6 million. But majority of that 1.5 is comes from our Christmas light business. Close
Cool.
to there.
The next one is, what is this drive that you speak of?
Gabriel, I will send you that link. Whenever you sign up for the partnership, you sign the DocuSign, and then you get invited to the Google Drive, as well as the account through the Certified Lights website. So it may have been overlooked, but I'll get it sent over to you.
Great. And
Very
just to
good.
elaborate for everyone else on that, the drive is one of the benefits you receive as a partner. It contains all of the material that we've made, hours and hours of videos, tons of documents about how to run the business, what the best practices are, both for field install and the business side of things. So that's something that you receive just for signing up for being a partner.
Also has a bunch of marketing material, our agreements that you can use as a template, postcards. It's just like, if you think of a franchise, they're going to provide every piece of the business to you that they do. We've tried to capture all that in that Google Drive. And that's when I say we're expanding and doing even more. We'll continue to add how-to videos and how to market, how to do a proposal, how to install stuff, how to take down, like this video, but even more detail with the actual takedowns and processes where you can look at it and see it. Our goal, again, is just to provide as much support to help y'all grow efficiently and profitable as possible.
All right, so I'm gonna skim through here since we're kind of running out of time. The questions just keep coming, but is there a cost for the February training?
Yes, and I dropped the link there for you.
Perfect. Is there a discount if we pay upfront versus using PAP?
So I'm guessing that's probably more of like a pre-order. All of our partners do receive a discount. That's one of the benefits on the Certified Lights page. If you're talking about pre-orders, I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of pre-order discount coming out. But that would be something that Scott might know a little bit more about, or something that we'll probably be sending out soon.
Yes, we're going to talk tomorrow. It's one of the topics we've got teed up is, so most of y'all probably know this, but just to kind of, for those that don't, to reiterate how the industry and certified lights distribution work is, we order from our factories in China, and we get a discount the earlier we put it in and the more product we put in. So we pass along a good percentage of that discount to anyone who wants to place an order the first of the year. People have different cutoffs. We try to push ours a little later, like mid-March. It may be the end of February this year, but we'll be getting that out here pretty soon. The percentage discount and the deadlines for that. So when you place an order for, say $10,000 for a round number that you might get in September or October, you might get 20% off of that by pre-ordering. Part of that percentage changes depending on what the factories can give us, and we negotiate and all that kind of stuff. Part of what we're going in March to do. So, so that's the biggest discount you can get. Most companies do a Christmas in July. It may be 10% discount if you'll order then. I'm not sure why they do that. Everyone does it. We do it. Sometimes just the way it is, history of what's happened. And then the rest is basically market pricing, and the prices will change throughout the season. So when you become a partner for us, and if you go to that partner page, it gives you all the detail on this, but basically you get all the stuff we're talking about. The only requirement, there's no charge right now. At some point we may do a small monthly fee on being a partner, but everyone will be grandfathered in that hasn't right now. We still don't have that. The only thing you're required to do is buy your product through us. And our goal is to supply all of our partners at 10% of the average of wholesale. So if you go out and buy all your products for the season, we go out and survey like the biggest 20 different main suppliers, and we target a 10% discount off of that. You'll always be able to go find one product that's cheaper than what we're supplying because everyone else lost leaders, but we're not going to do that. If you don't want or value what we're providing and the support of it, that's okay. If you just want to go shop every product out there, this program's not for you. But if you want a program that's going to give you below wholesale pricing and give you lots of support to grow, it's an amazing program. So that's our only requirement within the within the partnership program. So those are kind of the three opportunities to buy product. By spring, you get a big percentage off. July, you can get some percentage off, and then regular pricing, whatever the market pricing is each year, changes a little bit, but we just go out and survey in beginning of September and the beginning of November. We'll survey 20 companies and adjust our pricing up or down depending on what they're doing, to make sure we're at that market minus 10%. Now, I said all that because there is a side piece of what we just talked about, which is the advanced product for the partners. We're going to try to get that up front. Now, if you want the advanced product, it's going to be at whatever the market product is at the season, which is still way better if you don't have the cash than getting a discount, because you're not going to even be able to buy the product in front of you, the cash at the beginning of the season. So it's kind of two different companies. If you've got the cash, you can take the 20% discount. Recommend doing that. We'll work with you on what that is and how much. It doesn't mean you have to buy it all. You can buy 70% of what you forecast you're going to need next season. If you want to grow by $50,000, you're going to probably need $15,000 worth of product for that 50,000 increase in revenue. And we'll recommend, we'll order 10,000 now. You're going to save $2,000, which goes directly to your bottom line. And we'll work with y'all on that. And it may be that you don't have that money and the PAP program's better for you, and we'll work with you on that, but we'll still want to know kind of what your goals are so we can forecast what we need to order.
All right. There's still more questions. Let's make these quick. So does becoming a certified partner only add benefits, or does it restrict us from doing anything in any way after signing the DocuSign? Kind of
So
a
like
little bit
Scott
what you
said, we
touched on,
do
but
have the requirement where you make Certified Lights your supplier whenever possible. I've seen some people talking about American made products. None of our branded products are American made. But if you have that requirement, we can help you source it, or you just go and buy it from whoever you need to. But the benefits definitely outweigh that one restriction.
yeah, for sure. Will there be another training after February?
So I did answer this question to someone else in the chat. Right now, we don't have a set date for another one. Chances are we will probably add one in September, but please do not quote me on that. We have not discussed it. I'm just throwing that out there based on what we did last year. So there's a chance that we'll add one, but I'm not sure when that's going to be. But we'll let you know as soon as we find out.
All right, another partner question. What are the fees for signing up as a partner, and are there any restrictions working with other holiday light wholesalers?
Same answer, $0
Yeah.
fee.
Do y'all leave
Right
the
now, there's a
I would
$0
just
fee right now.
I would just add to that, like, if you do light links, or I think there's the three companies that do linkables, they call them different stuff, they're the same product, or something like that that we can't offer, of course you can go buy that. But in general, if you're a partner, you need to buy your C9s, your spools, your wreaths, your garland, all those products from us, because that's the only way we're going to grow and continue to provide the support that we can provide. We're really looking for people that want to look 3, 5, 10 years down the road and get to be $1.5 million company like us. Or if you're a company that's wants to be 200,000 or 100,000, whatever your growth goals are, it doesn't have to be what we've done, but that you want to grow and want someone to support you and help you get there, that you want to partner with us and understand that if we're not making money. So one of the things that we've structured our company is, if we don't help you grow, all of our growth is based on our partners. So if we don't support you in a way that you can grow your company, we won't grow our company. So it's kind of a win-win. When we say partnership, we really mean partnership, because if we have people that aren't buying from us or aren't interested in what we're providing support wise, we kind of feel like it's a waste of time. So we will start to weed out partners that aren't utilizing our program or want to be here or supporting us as we support them. So it's a little bit of an honor system. We're not going out to our partners areas, and we've got partners across the country. I mean, literally everywhere, and inspecting to see. But we know through grapevine and through time, and we can figure out who's not buying it from us when we should. And we haven't done a lot of restrictions on that so far, but we'll start to weed out those people. So it's a little bit of an honor system. We want people who want to work with us, and we want to work with them. So.
Great. The next question is, do y'all leave the colorful tags on all season long? Are these not noticeable or poor looking?
What was that last part, Mateo? Or what?
Are those, so the question is, do y'all leave the colorful tags on all season long? Are those not noticeable or poor looking?
Oh, gotcha. Yes, we do leave it on all season long. Most customers don't notice it because, again, I'm not using the bright red for the stakes right against the grass, right? But it's also being mindful of where you put it, right? Most of your connections are going to be right there at the foundation of the home, so don't put the cable label smack dab in the middle where they can see it, right? Put it right where your connections are going to be, a little less noticeable, and you can definitely tuck it around that wire a little bit. It's not going to stay there 100%, but it's not as noticeable as you may think.
Great. The next question is, are there any US makers for the lights you use? And there's another comment to that question that says, we have customers who have various made in America requirements as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so we answered that one. No, none of our manufacturers are in America. If you're interested in joining the partnership and you have to buy from them, we understand.
I don't know of any C9 or mini lights that are made in America. I could be wrong, but you're going to pay twice as much for them, and the customer's not going to like paying twice as much. So explaining to those customers that we'll source as much as we can that's made in America, and there's wreaths that are made here and certain stuff, bows, but I think the basic cable and all that, they're starting to make it in places like Vietnam and Cambodia, but I don't know of any suppliers here. And if there are, I'm sure they're twice as much. So people say that until they have to pay twice as much. And I'm not anti-American. I'd love to make it here. But when you go to the factories over there, you don't, I mean, people talk about make it in America, but I don't know. A lot of people want to sit in a factory and make lights like they have to do over there. It's not a very glamorous job, or one that I think most people would want to do. We have hard enough time getting people to put in Christmas lights. Can imagine having them sit there making them, but I understand that's kind of a theme right now.
So speaking of wire, do you sell SPT2 socket spools and bare wire, or just SPT1?
So we only sell SPT1 this year. It's not to say that we won't sell it next year or the year following. It's really one of those things that if it's in demand and it makes sense for us to carry it, then we'll carry it. Generally speaking, I mean, we've done 17 years with the SPT1 without any issues, right? So I mean, it's a thicker casing. I know people up north tend to use them. But I guess maybe in my opinion, might be a little bit of an overkill, may not be as necessary.
And I think about 90% of the market uses SPT1. And we did try SPT2 for a while. Actually, we got some delivered that was supposed to be SPT1. The problem is everything has to be one or the other. So, you use one or the other, you're carrying double all the products, double the lamp cord, double the socket spools, double the connectors. And so I think to Ashley's point, everything we've talked to other manufacturers, other distributors, SPT1 will work in the cold, will work in the warm. There's no real reason for SPT2. The best thing about SPT2, in my opinion, is it'll hold up a little better to squirrels chewing through it or lawn guys hitting it, nicking it. But the general usefulness and quality is the same. The wire is the exact same. It's just a little thicker cover.
Yeah. Mateo, before you jump into the next question, Matthew asked, we installed controlled soffit receptacles at a new build bank several years ago. They've never been used. The Holiday Light contractor uses the grade receptacles or the at grade receptacles and run cords up the downspouts. Thoughts? I tell all of my teams never to use the soffit outlets. Or at least try not to, if at all possible. You'll have customers say, oh, great news, Christmas Light Company, I had these special outlets installed. And we're just like, oh no, okay, now we have to let the customer know, sorry, we appreciate it, not happening, right? So the reason why we don't is, number one, especially for residential, our customers plug their lights in, right? If they're VIP, we plug it in for them. So it needs to be, accessible. I'm not going to expect the customer to pull out a ladder, climb up to the soffit, plug their lights in. Not happening, right? But the biggest one is the QA, right? So we generally have one-person QAs that go out and service these any kind of lights that are out or any issues like that. And it's really difficult when the timer and everything is plugged into the top. Especially if it's really tall, a second person may be required for the ladder. I remember going out to an HOA and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? I need to find the timer. And I look all the way up and it's up there. And I'm like, okay, I have wasted a trip out here. I can't do anything for this job. So that's why we don't use them. I would recommend not using them simply for QA purposes. Not to mention, gravity is going to work at some point, right? So if you have a timer plugged into there, and it's some outlets are just a little bit looser, it's only a matter of time before it comes unplugged or falls or something along those lines. So I would recommend not using those.
All right, next one. Do you participate in any of the markets, Atlanta, Dallas, Las Vegas, High Point, and or other trade shows? And if so, which ones?
We have like a love-hate relationship with trade shows. For services, yes, we do trade shows. For certified lights, not really so much. I would say pre-COVID trade shows were a lot more successful, I guess. I remember going to one with Scott in Florida in 2021 and there was like nobody there, and so the issue with the trade shows is they're very, very, very expensive. And if a booth costs $7,000, which is not unrealistic by any means, that doesn't include the displays and all these other things. So I think trade shows are going to become a little bit more of the past. Personally, I don't think it's really worth it. But if you are going to do it for services like HOAs, then you should, you're going to have to invest a lot of time. It's going to be a lot of money as well. So just be mindful of that.
Great. And I think that was actually the last one. There was one more, but it's more of a specific contact us type of question. So I think that was the last one on the chat.
Excellent. All right. Well, fantastic. Well, from me and everyone here at Certified Lights, let me say thank you very much. We're super excited to have you guys join today. Partners that joined today, everyone that purchased this year, we're excited for the growth and the updates coming along in 2024. We hope everybody here will be a part of our journey, and we're excited to be a part of yours as well. If you have any questions about anything, training, partnership, anything at all, my email has been put in here a few times. I will drop it in here one more time. Please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to help. Like I said, I'm very passionate about this. I'm very passionate about the business and the business owners, and I'd love to help you as much as I possibly can. So again, thank you guys so much for joining. Have the most wonderful day. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you want to, Happy New Year. And we look forward to webinars in 2024. Bye, everybody.